It was the late 1990s in Seattle, Washington. A young man named James was walking home after work. The time was around 2 a.m. The streets were empty, silent. Only dim streetlights glowing and the distant flicker of a traffic signal. James felt at first that heavy feeling, the feeling of being watched. He quickened his steps. But then he heard it. Footsteps behind him. When he turned, he froze. A tall, unnaturally thin man stood by the sidewalk, dressed in an old-fashioned suit. But what terrified James wasn't his clothes. It was his smile, a wide, frozen grin. Too wide, too still, as if carved into his face. The man stepped forward, slowly, bending his knees in strange, unnatural ways, almost like he was dancing. James panicked and hurried away, but the smiling man followed, step for step, always keeping the same distance. Then suddenly, the man ran, straight toward him. James bolted, heart racing, lungs burning, until he finally reached his front door. He slammed it shut and locked it. Through the window, he looked back. The street was empty, but under a streetlight, far in the distance, the smiling man stood, perfectly still, still grinning, staring right at him. To this day, people in Seattle whisper about him. Late at night, on empty streets, some claim they still see the smiling man. No one knows if he's human or something far darker. But one thing is certain, once you see that smile, you'll never forget it. This is not a movie, not a legend. It happened in America, in a place where people are still afraid to walk alone at night. Because sometimes people vanish and never return. In Massachusetts, there's an area known as the Bridgewater Triangle, a 200 square mile region infamous for hauntings, UFO sightings, and mysterious vanishings. On a cold October night in 1978, 24-year-old Lawrence Larry Irving was riding his motorcycle home. He was last seen chatting briefly with a friend along the roadside. Minutes later, Larry disappeared. Police later found his motorcycle on the side of the road. The headlight was still on, the engine still running, but Larry was gone. Locals claimed that night they saw a thick, white mist covering the road. Inside that mist, a tall, shadowy figure with glowing red eyes. For months after Larry's disappearance, drivers reported the same terrifying sight. A man standing on a roadside, only to vanish the moment headlights touched him. Police searched tirelessly. Dive teams combed through swamps and rivers nearby. But there was no body, no blood, no trace of Larry. Nothing. To this day, the Bridgewater Triangle remains one of America's most haunted places. Visitors say even on an empty road, they feel watched. And some swear the man with the red eyes still waits in fog. Was Larry murdered by human hands? Or was he taken by something not of this world? Would you dare drive through the Bridgewater Triangle alone at night? Some mysteries are buried in time, but their shadows never fade. New Orleans, 1918. A city of jazz, culture, and vibrant life. But behind the music and laughter, there was fear. Fear of a man known only as the Axeman. New Orleans was one of America's most vibrant cities. Streets echoed with jazz music, people danced all night, and life felt alive. But then, darkness fell upon the city. In May 1918, the first brutal murder was discovered. A family was attacked while they slept. Their killer used an axe, often one belonging to the victims themselves. Oddly, nothing was ever stolen. The motive seemed to be murder, and murder alone. Soon, one killing became many. Each crime had the same chilling pattern. The back door was chiseled open. The attacks happened late at night. Victims were struck with an axe or a heavy blade. Most victims were Italian-American grocers, which sparked theories of racism or mafia retaliation. But no real evidence ever proved that. By 1919, paranoia gripped New Orleans. Families took turns staying awake at night. Others prayed that the axeman would pass them by. Police had no leads. The killer seemed to appear like a phantom and vanish just as quickly. But in March of 1919, the case took its strangest turn. A letter arrived at the local newspaper. The writer claimed to be the axeman himself. In it, he made a chilling promise. I am the Axeman. I will strike again on the night of March 19th at 12:15. But I swear, every home where a jazz band is playing will be spared. March 19th, 1919. That night, New Orleans transformed into one giant party. Every club, every home, every street was filled with jazz music. People played trumpets, pianos, and violins late into the night. And the result? Not a single murder occurred. The city was stunned. Could a serial killer really be obsessed with jazz? Or was this nothing more than a cruel psychological game? The murders resumed in the months that followed. Families continued to live in terror. But after October 1919, the Axeman was never heard from again. No arrest, no suspect, no closure. The phantom killer of New Orleans simply vanished. Even today, historians and crime experts still argue about who the Axeman really was. Some believe he was a sadistic drifter, killing randomly. Others think it was connected to mafia conflicts targeting immigrant families. And some say it was more than one person hiding behind the legend of the Axeman. But the truth? We'll never know. New Orleans is still called the City of Jazz. But beneath the music, there lingers a shadow, the shadow of the Axeman. Over 100 years later, his identity remains one of America's greatest unsolved mysteries. So let me ask you, if you lived in New Orleans on that night in 1919, would you have played jazz to save your life?